In regards to Orthodoxy, so I will say this, Athanasius, I had someone work for me who is Orthodox, and we have an Antiochian Orthodox church here in Memphis, and a lot of Protestants convert to Orthodoxy, and they put up a solid argument. But when I gave it a fair shot, here's where, and it wasn't the deep doctrine and dogma which got me, it was the moral theology that got me. So what I can't bear about the Orthodox Church is how wishy-washy they are on fundamental moral issues. And those moral issues about men and women and relationship and life and the dignity of the human person, those all relate back to how we see God and God's identity and our identity before God. Marriage relates back. It's a foreshadowing of the Trinity. And I think while they'll harp on the Trinity and how is God begotten or is God not begotten and all of that, you see as it goes down the road to issues of contraception, divorce, remarriage, it gets really wishy-washy for them. And that's when it's like, that's why Peter's so important, because of issues like this. So in the Orthodox Church, they allow for basically you to do whatever your pastor says, your spiritual father says in a moral issue. So, hey, if you've decided you're going to get a divorce, that's okay. You can get remarried, so long as your pastor or your spiritual father says it's okay, and he sees that there's pastoral need for that. When scripture itself says that's not the case. The gospel says that's not the case. In matters of contraception, this is a big one. And even though people don't want to talk about it, it's a real deal. You're killing life in that situation, and you're trying to control life and take it in your hands. And the Orthodox Church says, yeah, if your spiritual father says it's okay, you can do it. Whereas I found the truth in the Catholic Church, which says we defend life from conception until natural death. And when we love somebody, we love all of that person, and we don't try to control life and take it in our hands and decide when life's going to happen and when life's not going to happen. And scripture itself in the Old Testament makes it pretty clear that we're not supposed to do that. So when you look at how they live their morality, it becomes really, really wishy-washy, especially in modern times. And that's when you kind of look back and you say something went off the train tracks here. I also can't get behind them not believing in development of doctrine after the year 700 or 800 AD. It's like, so doctrine was okay to develop until like somewhere between 700 and 900 AD, but then after that it just stopped. And I can't really fathom why that happened. So that was why I could not make the full jump to Orthodoxy, and I remained in Peter's boat, because that's the boat that Jesus got on. So that's why I've stayed here. And people don't think about that morality issue. They'll get stuck on the Orthodox debating the Trinity over and over and over again. But then when you just start studying pretty preliminary moral issues, you're like, wow, these guys are really off their rockers. They only have divine liturgy once a week, which means they only have the Eucharist once a week. And it goes back to another moral issue, celibacy and the priesthood. And we cannot have the Eucharist with a priesthood that is not celibate. And so they only, because of that, are only able to have a Eucharist once a week, and they practice like evening prayer the rest of the week. Like that in of itself, a little red flag, a little flag waving in the air saying, why does the Catholic Church have it every day, at every moment of the day, fulfilling what the Jesus said at the Last Supper, do this in memory of me. At every moment of the day, in some place over the world, the Eucharistic sacrifice is being offered perpetually before the Father. From the moment of whenever the early church started practicing that, I guess somewhere in Acts, to now, it's been perpetually offered somewhere in the world at some point in the world as we've grown as a universal church. And Orthodox can't say that. They don't have a perpetual offering. It only happens once a week in the divine liturgy for them because of the way that they have a non-celibate priesthood. So interesting stuff there too to think about. Last thing in regards to Orthodoxy, and then I will leave. But also the universality of Orthodoxy, not quite there like the universality of the Catholic Church. Like when I think about places like Latin America or Africa or even China or the Asian countries, we cannot say that the Orthodox have that the universality of the universal church is seen in the Orthodox Church as it is in the Catholic Church. And I would say that's another flag pointing into the direction of the one true, holy, universal church that Christ founded.